All right, 6 o'clock, call the meeting to order. Favors the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Favor say aye. Aye. Saying no, agenda is approved. Send items. I'm thinking about this, kind of goes with that item, electricity bill. The lights over at the playground back here. Like 8. Or can we set that timer on? I think we brought that up before, but
We have,
I've heard people say, oh, it's pretty bright at night, that live
Yep.
around there.
yep, for sure. I think probably 8:30 is fine. 8:30, 9. We do like to keep it light, like for when we have home events out here.
It's like 11:30.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's somehow gotten off schedule or something, so. Are you
I
okay?
think we used to do 10, didn't we? or
That's what I was
something?
thinking, but I kind of feel like that might be a little late for those people, but I don't know that.
Be an hour and a half earlier, what is it?
Yeah. It might be on later, I don't know.
While we're talking about that, at one time we talked about trying to get more light in the parking lot out of the athletic complex,
Okay.
light shining back,
Oh, yes.
and we must have never done that.
Apparently I dropped the ball if I was supposed to do something with that.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I
I remember
really-
we talked about it and we kind of thought that that was a good idea. 'Cause
Are there
it's-
lights there and they're just not pointed in the right direction?
Well, I think there's some there, it's just, I don't know if they're. I think like if there's a game or whatever, they're turned on, but
Yeah.
I suppose it's manual or something, and maybe we need to look at doing something.
Well, I wonder if they're not hooked to the stadium lights. So when stadium lights come on.
That could be,
The one thing that the parking lot is,
Stadium.
it's with the
With the
lights.
stadium.
with the stadium
Yeah.
lights,
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get on that. We'll.
I mean, it's not a
We
big
can-
deal, but I remember we
Well-
talked about it, and it just, I mean, it's pretty dark in
It is.
there,
Mhm.
and people.
Well, and I
Cars
think-
or whatever.
If we haven't already, we put cameras up there, right?
Yes.
So it's only gonna be nice to have some light to see who they are.
Yeah.
You said something about electricity. I wanted to let you know. Our electric company is going to be raising our bill. But they're glad to tell us that it's less than what they had proposed. And it's supposed to be less in some areas, but more in other areas. And so my son got a notification that his is gonna go up about like $6-7 a month. And so I can tell between residential and commercial that the commercial side of it got a bit of a break versus residential. I did send in some appeals back when they first were asking to raise it a year ago. It's taken a year for them to go through the utilities board and that. And so I sent it on behalf of the school. I sent it on behalf of the Education Foundation, everybody I could think of, I sent. And so anyway, it's gonna raise it, but not as much as what they asked.
The Alliant, not Black Hills,
Alliant.
Black Hills.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Yeah.
gas.
Yeah.
What's that? Says gopher and then parachute.
It's.
Oh, that would be
P-
the equipment.
Oh, okay.
It's the big
Oh,
round
the
parachute
different-
thing that
okay.
gets onto.
Yep. Like, yeah, skydiving.
That's how fast they get it going.
Last Saturday. Timing system for track and PD.
That is a timing system, for lack of a better word, that track, cross-country, and PE all went in and bought together. It's like to help with, like when they're in PE and doing the timing or whatever.
So it's not like, nothing to do with like
No,
timing system, not the,
No.
like that.
No.
Yep.
yeah, when I first saw that, I
Record
went
times.
just about spun
Yeah.
around.
Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items. Second.
Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Consent items are approved. Any correspondence this month?
No.
To public forum with Sue.
As you know from previous presentations over time here, I'm just starting my 19th year with the University of Maryland as an adjunct instructor. And a couple of the things that I have really liked about them is one, they actually insist on international standards. So anyone that's been around, or even from when you guys were in school here, I've been trying to push just to get Iowa up, even to national standards would be terrific. But the other thing that I really, really like about this place is the fact that they periodically review, but they've selected a group of concepts to apply across disciplines. So the activities within the disciplines all revolve around various applications of these. And the point of that is, just as some of us, and I don't know about all of you, but some of us do regular exercises for our bodies so we can do a variety of activities to stay in shape. Well, applying concepts of brain exercises, they improve your thinking and problem-solving skills. So applying them across disciplines gives you a variety of ways to use them. Now, if you just memorize something or copy what somebody else has said, then all you're doing is like reclining back in your easy chair, watching someone else do exercises and say, okay, they did this, they did this, they did this, but you're not actually getting the benefit from it. So that's one of the things I really like about them. And like a variety of places, they are now focused on how to incorporate AI into the rest of what it is we're doing. And it can be challenging because there are so many ways of going about this, but you're going to need these skill sets. You can see this in a variety of reports and papers on this topic. And so they are working very hard on that now. So when I stumbled across something a couple of weeks ago, quite by accident, which is what I wrote about and what I gave you in my handout in the email, I thought I would bring this up because it might provide you with an opportunity of someone fairly local here that could graduate from Baxter that might be able to provide you with some additional details about this. My son graduated from Iowa State with a degree in MIS. And two professors had started a brand new company. His last year at Iowa State, he worked in the computer department for Best Buy there on Duff. And these two professors had been told that they needed to improve their IT department for the type of service that they were providing. And these are like international clients. So they would go in and pick his brain and he would try to help them get what they needed. And then when he did his internship, they hired him. And when he graduated, they said, well, aren't you going to apply to us? He was going down to Des Moines for interviews here. They hired him, so he's been there for over 20 years, and he now also serves on the board for them. So he's had a lot of experience at evolving in various applications. What he told me about a couple of weeks ago is that they are getting a government grant for developing what would be like an internal AI program, kind of like Excel, Word, various types of things you can just work with on your computer. And there are a variety of applications and ways to use this, things to think about that involve skill sets that are going to be needed for a variety of jobs across there. So the reason I am pointing this out to you now, I don't know where you're at in this school in any conversations with various teacher training and everything that you're doing. But if you would like to talk to someone who is at least somewhat familiar with Baxter since he graduated from here, only lives in Ames, I mean, a Zoom meeting might be possible. Since they have additional people that he's hired as he put together a department for the company, they could also help provide some data of what they're using to write what would be, I mean, it doesn't have to be online, an internal document to help assess various things in a variety of ways that could be, some of which could be applied across disciplines to make it fairly useful. So I just wanted to let you know there is somebody local available that can also maybe help you find some additional information that might be of use for you to discuss here in your various teacher programs. So we're using that part of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Principals reports.
There you go. I'm gonna start by just giving a shout out to our paras and special ed teachers. They have an enormous task in front of them and they do a great job every day with our behaviors and academic needs. And so I just wanted to make sure I highlighted them this month as they put a lot of work in over the last couple of months to prepare these programs for students to hopefully fulfill our commitment to all students and making sure that all kids are learning. We did have our fast data. We did our fast stuff over the last month. So I wanted to share some of the results that we have from that. In reading, we had 75% of our kids at benchmark for the fall. That's the highest fall we've ever had since we started fast testing. And it's exactly where we left off in the spring. So we didn't see a whole lot of drop off in our numbers from the summer. So we're sitting right where we want to be there. In math, we were at 83% proficient at benchmark. That's again the highest that we've had in the fall. And it's up from, somewhere close to 68% in 2020. So both of the numbers that we're proud of where we're at right now. Obviously, we still want some more work to be done, but we really shoot to be at that 80% number. In math, we're there. We want to continue to grow. Reading, we're close, and we want to continue to close that gap as best we can. From that, then we have our data days where we bring in our AEA supports and we sit down and we talk and we go through what we need to do in order to improve our percentages. We sit as a team, everybody around the table and discuss different strategies, interventions that we can put into place to make sure that we are committed to that all piece of what we say. And those are great conversations. A lot of great things come from those data day conversations and now have a plan for the next couple cycles that we'll go through in both reading and math. And then our highlight some teacher work that we've been working on behind the scenes. We've been working through finalizing our priority standards, making sure that our resources are aligned to our priority standards, and then updating some of our report cards so that it reflects exactly what's going on in the classroom and are emphasized around those priority standards that we've deemed are most important at every single grade level. A lot of behind the scenes work goes into that, a lot of time commitment from our teachers and other staff to be able to make that happen. Deanne and Amanda have done an amazing job on updating our report card and getting that ready for next week as we go into conferences. And a lot of that's been kind of focused around our forefront software that's now getting inputted. So we purchased that over the summer and now had some data day meetings around that forefront. So we're collecting all the data. We can see it student by student. And then we had a BLT meeting to kind of highlight some of where we are within our benchmark assessments to see exactly where we need to go moving forward. So all the things that we have in place are starting to click. And I think some of that we're seeing is the fruits of the labor of happening in the percentages that I shared earlier. So last month was kindness and respect. And this month we focused on responsibility and some of our social emotional learning. And the kids are really picking up on that. And the lessons are really solid inside the classroom for that too. So
I'm going to hand out something here real quick, but we could back up for a second. I think Ms. DeVore wanted to just talk a little something about kind of the public forum, if that's all right to do.
Hello, for those that don't know me, I'm Francesca DeVore. I'm the high school math teacher here at Baxter, and I'm ready to propose an adjustment to my compensation due to additional responsibilities that I've undertaken this year of offering college level courses. As I complete my second year in the district, I believe my contributions warrant a discussion of how we can better recognize the value these courses provide for our students and the school community. Last year, I embarked on my journey to obtain a master's degree in science of mathematics to be able to teach college-level courses through BCSD. I completed my program in just 9.5 months and graduated as of August 9th. I am now an adjunct professor at DMAC and am excited to offer college algebra, college calculus, and college statistics to our students. This academic year, I am offering college algebra first semester to 18 students. That is $722 per student. I offer college calculus to 2 students. That is again $722 per student. And then next semester, I'll be offering college statistics to about 27 to 30 students as of right now. And again, that is $722 per student. In total, these courses represent approximately $36,100 in free college courses that we get to offer to our students. It was my understanding that upon completing my master's degree, I would begin to receive reimbursement for my education expenses. However, I recently learned that I need to remain in the district for 3 years before I can qualify for this reimbursement. This information was not communicated to me prior to my enrollment in the master's program, and as a result, I find myself in a challenging position. Currently, I'm compensated at the same rate as a first-year teacher, earning $47,500, despite the additional work and responsibilities I am taking on by offering these college-level courses to our students here at Baxter. My proposal for the school board to consider the following: a compensation adjustment to establish a supplement pay structure for teachers who have completed their masters. This could increase in the salary that reflects an additional responsibility and financial value provided to our students. And the second one is a reimbursement policy review to reevaluate the reimbursement policy for advanced degrees, particularly for teachers who completed their master's degree within a short time frame and who contribute significantly to the school's offerings. I am passionate about providing our students with opportunities for college credits and preparing them for the future academic success. However, I believe that the adequate compensation for the additional work I'm undertaking is essential to maintain the motivation and ensure the continued success for our college level programs. I appreciate your consideration of this proposal and look forward to discussing it further. Thank you for your support for our students and educators here at Baxter.
So just kind of jumping back into my portion, just wanted, I kind of handed this out to you. This is something that Travis D, myself, and Melissa Ilabachi from the AEA kind of started to put together. This is definitely a rough draft. Rolled this out to our secondary staff on Monday afternoon. We kind of just talked about it briefly. We're going to dive into it more in the future. Our intent behind all of this is to establish basically a behavior type matrix to help our staff and therefore work with our students to better understand like who's responsible for what, how we kind of help manage and work with our students within the classroom setting, both from a proactive mindset, which kind of runs along the left-hand side of the first page, to more of like a restorative type mindset when maybe something didn't go exactly how we would plan in the classroom, and just some different techniques, ways to approach working with our more challenging students. I will say through the beginning part of the year, both in office referrals, talking to staff, having one-on-one meetings with staff, etc. That's been kind of a consistent, I don't want to say concern, but just a consistent measure that's been brought to me, in that we just have a little bit too much unknown as far as like who's responsible for what and how to just, we have a lot of young staff too, that just, we need to better prepare, train, put systems in place for our staff to be successful and therefore our students to be successful within the walls of these buildings when we're here. So this again is just, it's a lot of wording. I understand that, but just understand in the next few months, our staff is going to continue to look at this, break it down into manageable pieces, and get this draft into more of a working, living, breathable document that will be rolling out to our students and families, just so we're kind of all on the same page on how to be successful as a student at Baxter. I really wanted to get this in your hands so you can kind of have a look at it. This is going to be the focal point of a lot of our professional learning here as a building moving forward in the next few months for certain, and really and beyond, because it's always a work in progress. So just wanted to talk about that briefly. And then the second piece, I have been looking at, got some quotes, been sharing some information about an online pass system, which would just kind of replace, just traditional paper pencil type sign in, sign out type systems with our students. We have amazing kids and they do amazing things. Where we're seeing some of our behavior issues are in some of our unstructured time and unstructured settings, hallways, bathrooms, lunchroom, these types of areas. And this would help us get a better control. We can do a lot of different things as far as limiting the number of students in the hallways. If there's students we don't want in the hallways at the same time, we can program these. There's a lot of different pre-settings we can put in to help manage our building in a much more efficient way. There would be a little bit of cost with that, but actually, I saw this in action last year at BGM schools, similar in our size. And they're in their third year of using a system like this and they love it. It's been very, very, I saw some of their behavioral data to support that type of system. And so we're looking into going that direction as well. So just wanted to kind of run those updates and some future vision past you all tonight. So thank you.
Participation in the drug and alcohol testing program.
This is just an annual approval account on the calendar year, not on the school year. It's, I'm really not quite sure what year, because we have to go on to it, so.
For our drivers.
Yep.
Quarterly.
Yep.
Certain percentage. Random swap.
Every quarter. Should approve the participation in the drug and alcohol testing program.
Motion to approve the drug and alcohol testing program.
Second. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Approved. SIAC committee.
Link there is the participants that have been invited on this year's SIAC committee. Committee will meet annually to discuss the determine educational needs, student learning goals, student performance, long-range and annual goals, as well as district culture and climate. Those are all things defined by Iowa code that are requirements within the SIAC committee. It's also defined by code that the board has to approve the committee. We're looking tentatively at November 20th. But if we have a change in the date of the board meeting, we may move this meeting to coincide with that.
Make a motion to approve SIAC committee was presented. Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
SIAC committee is approved. It's planned.
Yep, so every 3 years, we have to evaluate both board policy, which discusses our wellness plan, as well as kind of go over our wellness progress report. There's a committee of PE teachers, our head of our kitchen, our principals, and those that get together, look at board policies. So there's some really, as far as the changes to board policy go, it's either striking what is against code now, since code has changed, or making changes to align with Iowa code. And there's a wellness progress report. You can see there, we establish goals in each of those appendices. And then kind of measure to what effect are those goals in place. We'll meet as a committee again this spring and kind of take a look at that progress report again. And then there's some other documentation that has to be submitted to the kitchen as well.
I have a question about the wellness report.
Yes, we'll waive the second reading on this. So we'll just approve the changes that are there, especially because some of them just are against code right now. They're in violation of Iowa code. Minor things. And some language that needs to be struck.
So do we want to do the policies first?
I think we'll probably do it together. I feel like
Okay. We had a chance to look through.
Motion to approve the wellness plan and board policy as recommended.
Second. Second. Favor say aye. On this plan, board policy has been approved. Negative meal accounts.
So last month, you directed me to look into some collection agencies, I guess is the word, or companies that will take the responsibility of looking after your negative debt accounts. And there's one that actually a lot of schools use, and it's called Credit Bureau Services of Iowa. And it's similar to what you had anticipated. They don't make money if they don't collect it. If they collect it, they'll collect 38% off of the top of what they collect and then send the rest to us. But like you said, some is better than none. If we decide to take it to small claims court, we can, and it doesn't have to be one individual account. We can lump them all together. And they have a legal team, they will handle all of that for us. And then if they collect on it via garnishments or however that comes to fruition, then they'll take 50% of what they collect. So, but as you said, something's better than. I guess what we're looking for here is at what point do I send those to them? They have a portal, a secure portal. And so whenever I have an account or accounts, I would just upload the information to them. It's it's a secure portal, it's confidential, and then they take over the process from there.
So I think from a guidance standpoint, we're just looking to get some feedback from the board on when. Is there a time frame? Is there a dollar amount? Is there a combination of the two that you would want us to look to utilize the collection agency?
I was gonna recommend $200 because it reflects 60 days of one student having 2 meals a day. If you did a day and that family has 4 kids, you're gonna be $800 really quick. That's where my swing.
And I'd say those closed accounts for sure. just
Yeah, they can go immediately.
automatically
They'll go immediately. And in theory, we won't have those anymore because now we're starting this process. So you would think that we would get those taken care of before the accounts become closed or they're not active anymore.
Right.
If there is a scenario where they aren't active, but their final student is going to be a senior, we have other procedures in place before that senior graduates to get the fees collected and all of that. And so I would lean on those procedures before I would send it to collection. I mean, this isn't just nutrition. We have some accounts that are in arrears for registration fees, which affects our general fund. And so we would send those as well.
Is there for that CBSI, is there a minimum amount that they look at? I mean, I'm sure they're not gonna want to do it for $10 or something.
They really didn't have a minimum,
Okay.
but I do think that they operate on lower amounts, given that they have a lot of school accounts.
Yeah,
And schools in general, wouldn't be able to tolerate high negative balances or low negative balances.
like I kind of agree. Kind of when I looked at this, it shook out like $200 seemed like a fair of the
I was just
I
trying to
don't know
think
if you
of
want-
if we have to.
Of the non-closed accounts, I'd say the closed ones, they just go
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
they'll just go, we'll get those cleaned up, hopefully, and I won't wait any longer on those, but, it's going to,
Like you say, $200 for 60 days, whichever comes first, and if kids are buying extra stuff, which I guess that gets shut off.
we shut that off, yeah. Um,
I'm just trying to think of how do we set a guiding precedent, not just say right now, based on what's right now, like what's the logic that we use for that amount? I think it needs to be evaluated on an annual basis.
I agree, and I would like us to have, I would like these to be guidelines, but not exclusive. Because there's so many moving parts in play, you know, if it's been 2 months, but we've had contact with that parent and that parent keeps contacting us and, you know, they're trying, you know, then I maybe don't feel like I should, you know, send it to collection, you know? But if it's been 2 months and I can't get anybody to reply to me whatsoever, well, then of course I would, you know, so I feel like there's a little bit of gray area in there. Being in a small town, you kind of maybe know some extenuating circumstances that might filter into the decision. So,
Yeah, so I guess you wanna kind of talk about, are we talking about a dollar amount, a time frame, both? You wanna put another caveat in there, it's $200 for the establishment of a payment plan?
I was gonna say, if they are making a goodwill, like they're paying $5, like if you're actually putting some in on a consistent basis, I can see not doing it, but I think you need to be pretty consistent. So that.
yeah, I don't want to show favoritism or.
Right, like.
And to me, if you got a payment plan, you gotta be keeping, you can't be
Yes.
going further in the hole than what you're, I mean, say, yeah, I'll do $5 a week, or the kid's charging $20 a week,
$60,
that's,
yeah.
Yeah.
we're not getting anywhere, we're just drowning, so.
Yeah,
You gotta have a payment plan that is followed and is actually gonna reduce the outstanding amount.
yeah, so our current negative balance policy says there's sort of 3 tiers to it. Upon reaching a negative balance of $25 or greater, an automated notice, email, letter, or phone call from the food service director will be sent along with a free and reduced application. At the second level, if payment is still not made after reaching a negative $125 balance, the parent will receive a certified letter from the business office. The letter will state a due date to bring the account positive and or request the parent guardian to communicate by phone call or in writing. Generally, before it gets to $125, I already know about it because I just keep tabs on things. And so I might just shoot them a friendly email, you know, so that the first interaction that they have with me is not a certified letter that's negative. And so then the third level is if they reach $150 negative, then the superintendent or building principals will contact them. We're gonna have to put something in here about this next step here, you know, but I'll indicating what we're going to do, but I'm not going to be very specific about it. I'll just say that we may send it to collection. You know, after all other avenues are, you know, exhausted.
And
So when you were talking about the 200, I don't know if you want to keep it sort of in line with this. We were going 25, 125, 150, so we could go right to 200 or what?
And I'm not gonna ask you 200, I just figure it's easier to start with a
Well, that-
proposal and people to bounce off of that. So I don't.
we can use May language.
Reserve the right to
Yep.
pursue legal action, you know. Threshold of mind.
Yeah, I can only threaten so many times and not do something, you know?
As we, really tonight's just discussion, we're not moving to act on it yet. So I think we're just seeking some input on what that threshold looks like and
Like, kind of back to John's point, they're getting emails that,
yeah.
and then a letter, and then, you know, they've had that
They've had
chance
more
to,
than plenty of chances
yeah,
to,
to
to
kind
reach
of,
out.
okay, if I can do $10 instead of $5 or whatever. Bring it, because if it gets 200, I don't. Say, there's things that go on, but you almost have to be. It's gonna be $200.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, in theory, if they're negative and their kids are still bleeding, they're actually using other taxpayers' money to eat. So, that's not fair, I don't think.
Then like registration fees, I guess. Say if that's not done within a month.
Yeah, because we're carrying over a couple of years.
That seems like something that has to be taken care of pretty quickly too.
We actually have people who will pay a few times throughout the whole year for the 1 year. So I think, my thought is we opened up registration a little late this year, later than we normally would. And so, I intend that we'll take it back to shortly after the July 1st. Even though the parents know that it's coming, if it's available to them sooner, then maybe they'll pay sooner rather than trying to hold on to it, so.
If they pay it, I guess I don't have a huge problem if they're paying it over time, but is there some kind of a document they sign to agree that they're gonna pay? I mean, I guess I'd want, if it's tight and they can't pay the registration fee all at once, it's like, okay, we'll let you pay it so much per month, but I'd like to have a document signed by them agreeing that this is how much we're gonna pay a month. Just that way, then it's like,
Because generally, we would waive fees if they qualify for free and reduced meals. So we would waive those registration fees. So in theory, we're talking about people who don't qualify for free or reduced. So in theory, you would think that.
Draft something, call to that. Just to
Mhm.
cross our T's and dot our I's, make sure that's something that you need the authority to do, saying, like that.
So are you saying charging interest? Is that-
Yeah, probably. I will tell you, as we start looking at things like that, relatively speaking and comparatively speaking, our registration fees are rather low.
Not that last year.
You did, so we'll be bringing those fees to you this next year.
Anything else on that? Either input?
Good things.
Thank you.
Move on to some teacher thing.
Yeah, so teacher pay.
So comparatively, we're at the bottom. I just tell you that right now. At 105. So this proposal moves it to 125. I would anticipate you seeing this on the agenda for at least 3 years in incremental increases. Because 125 still puts us toward the bottom. But I would rather phase this in and that increase in over a few years. At 125, I think we don't have to whisper what we pay at that point, right? But it is going to be difficult to get subs at the rate of pay that it currently is.
how are we doing right now? I mean, it's always a struggle getting.
It is.
this, But are we? Guess the principals can answer that, or
It's kind of day to day, I would say. I mean, I feel like our attendance has been really good to start the school year, but there have been days where, yep, we don't have anybody, so then we're trying to. And people and our teachers have been great, staff have been great about stepping up and volunteering to give up their prep periods and whatnot, but that costs too, so. My hope would be that it gets easier if we have a more competitive amount per day.
I have seen some subs in the building that I haven't seen in a few years. So.
I mean, in doing this, are you going, when does it go into effect? Like immediately? Is that the proposal? And then two, how do you get that communicated? So if people have already written us off, is this actually gonna immediate impact.
So we do have a way to reach out to those subs, through our online system. And so I would imagine we'll send out a blanket
Notification.
notification. Come here, Ken.
I mean, I appreciate that you put in here what the approximate cost impact is, and I trust that if you're putting that in there, we're aware of it and we can manage it, but I just. And knowing that we're doing this, which I'm in favor of, does that mean that there's something that we originally planned for in the budget that needs to kind of come out, or do we need to
We have,
penny somewhere else?
we have to implement and see how it goes, you know, at the end of the day, hopefully this would also reduce what we're paying teachers in the building to cover for other teachers. So if we can get subs here, because we don't get a sub at the secondary, they're covering each other's classes and we're paying for that. So I don't know what type of impact it would have. We're gonna have to roll it out and then really see the true impact of it.
We continue to watch our pennies. And probably will for a while. That's just my nature. So I don't feel that this be no big. Okay. I guess I should, maybe we should share the news because I think I just shared it with the two of them. The financial solvency ratio.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that. So what where were we at down below? We're at 2%, and then this fall we have moved up to the 10% range for solvency
For
ratio.
our financial solvency ratio.
Yeah. So remember when we talked
We
about.
turned it around.
It is, and that short of time frame, especially it is, just keep in mind, and we'll present to you. To budget or 5-year projection, those types of things, but just keep in mind, when we talk about financial health. The two measures really that we're looking at are the solvency ratio and the unspent authorized budget, so. To go from 2 to 10 is great, you know, the state recommends like an 8 to 15% range, they bumped it up a little bit. I tend to argue that. Volatility in smaller districts, in my opinion, I feel a lot more comfortable at like 20 to 25% of the solvency ratio, especially if you have a high percentage of open enrolled students in, because there's some volatility there. But at the end of the day, we're back on the right track. Trend line's back on the right track and quickly. So.
Any more questions about the sub-pay? Be interested to see if it does help. Process recruit.
Tell Rob and everyone.
Looking at it, it's kind of all over the place, isn't it? Like what you guys put in for that spreadsheet there, it's.
It's a little bit, and it does, there's not really a rhyme or reason. There's just, you see Newton.
Yeah, Newton's high, but Marshalltown's not. I would think Marshalltown would be one that
And I
we
think
need to
that,
pay more, but.
did we have on?
It
should be
over
together.
3 years. I don't think, no, but yeah,
Get up to.
so you're matching up with them
Yeah.
and East Marshall, you know, right there.
We go all the way up. Because here's the average, it's 141 higher.
Who stays too for somebody?
Mm.
I think, yeah, for now, for the time being.
It's a stepped approach.
Yeah,
Make a motion to approve the sub-teacher pay.
So
Second.
Fair say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Increase approved. Enrollment. Now. Got without.
Yeah, she's never attended here, and they just moved into our district, and if I remember, right, it's just barely.
I think based on our recent conversations, I'm just gonna give a few notes on open enrollment and the guidelines. So with the deadlines being put back into place, a few things just to know. If we have a student that obviously that wants to open enroll out after the deadline, they have to have cause. Unless they want to open enroll into one of the accredited online programs like Iowa Connections Academy, then they don't have to have cause for that.
And there's no deadline.
And there's no deadline, so. The other part of this too is. If a student wants to open enroll after the deadline, it has to go to the resident district. The resident district has to act first. So we can't have a student that's passed the deadline in Newton, come to us with an open enrollment form. I'm gonna tell them, you need to go to Newton. I can't do anything with this until Newton or whatever school it may be does something with that. Districts are not allowed to to accept the open enrollment in of any student that is under suspension or expulsion as well. That's against Iowa code. You can't do that. From the board standpoint, as far as accepting open enrollment students in, what you need to know is there's really only 4 times you can say no. And a behavioral record is not one of those. So you can't say, well, this kid has 20 referrals, we're not gonna accept him. No, you can't. That's not one of the reasons why. The number one reason why is you can say you don't have space. I mean, that's typically the biggest one. That's the reason that districts are going to use. And it could be if it's an IEP student, maybe you don't have space in your special ed program too. There's a couple of others on there I should have had before. I can't forget. There's 2 more on there that you can say no because of, but something like a behavioral issue or an attendance issue is not something that you can deny open enrollment for.
So in this case, we have to approve the open enrollment out before Colfax Mingo can approve it.
Yes, and
Correct.
this is one of those cause cases, so.
Right, when they moved into the district.
We could not deny this,
Okay.
yeah. So when you move, it opens it back up again, but so you have the ability to attend the school prior.
So you sort of look at it, like if you think about the causes, there's like a whole list of causes that you have to try and remember, but if you look at it, like it's not, was it something that this was a result from the student, well, it's not the student's fault that they moved to a different district,
Right.
So if you look at it sort of that way, then you can sort of probably guess what the legalities are.
We have to actually approve the out, because it seemed like before this. we didn't-
That was before they put the
Yep.
rules back into
Yes.
place, so now you do.
Take a motion to approve the open enrollment out.
So moved.
Second.
Say
Aye.
approved. Facilities grounds and transportation.
At this point in time, the one thing I'm gonna bring up is roof repair. Elevate was out here, 2 days ago. And did about $2,000 worth of roof repairs, mainly in the weight room. We've had issues with water in there. So they kind of shored those up for us. We also have that report that's part of our capital assets plan that talks about roof replacement. So as Julie and I really have kind of gone through, what do we have the funding for and what is logical to do in terms of roof replacement? What we're tentatively looking at this summer would be to replace section 20. So they put some quote unquote Band-Aids on it for now to prevent water from coming in. That's the same section we would replace. This proposal is a very gradual one. This is one of the smaller sections. It'd be about, their estimate is $38,000. We have to get competitive bids for this, obviously. So section 20 would be about 38,000.
You tell us like what,
That's the weight room.
like, okay, that's the way.
Yes,
You're gonna,
that's the weight room. Sections 10 through 13, well, I can tell you 14 is, if you look at summer 2028, 14 is the library. It's a big section. It's roughly, I think, 140,000 is what they're estimating on that. And then 10 through 13 are middle school
And elementary.
and elementary sections.
And
Every
And
room or what?
the outside.
Yeah.
Patient.
That little area outside, there's
Birthday.
courtyard, but not kids courtyard, that other one,
oh,
where the self-contained room is, that door that goes into that
Yeah,
little,
yeah,
there's
there's
like
a
some
good-
special leveling that goes
Yeah.
above there. It used to be the old principal's office. Right in there, in that
And so those sections are in the same proximity, $250,000. Is probably what we're looking at there with the
area. It's 438 altogether.
438 altogether right now. It's not gonna be that, I'm just gonna tell you. This is a phased approach over 4 years with 3 years of construction. And those sections that are on here are all right now nearing end of life, they project 1 to 2 years of life left to them. 1 to 2 years can go 4 years or 5 years, just so you're aware of that. But I think we probably need to start putting together a proactive approach in replacement of some of our roofs. Again, we're at the perfect time to go out for competitive bids. There's a lot of schools will wait till the spring and then you're in crunch time trying to get bids back in. So we would probably look at least getting bids for section 20 for this summer and then go from there. We have been earmarking money in Pepple, $40,000 a year for roof replacement for the last 5-6 years roughly, Julie. I mean, what do we have in that? I'll tell you, we're not at a point where we have enough, let's just do them all right now,
Right,
okay?
right.
So we want a phased in approach and hopefully that we'll be able to fund everything out of.
Just under 237,000 is what I have in there.
So, you know, within a couple of years, I think phases 1 and 2 on there would be able to cover with that money. And then we take that next summer off to build that back up a little bit again. And go from there on that last section. So that's.
They were really good. I think we've shared it with you before. We'll share it with you again. When it comes down to that work session that we really do, but in the capital assets plan, we have the roof replacement schedule in there. And they actually go through and tell us, you've got 5 years left, you got 8 years left, you know, and so we basically built a schedule around that time. We're a little bit, like maybe a year or two behind the 8 ball, like we need to catch up a little bit. And so that's why we've got a big chunk all at once.
And they will, I've talked with them already, they'll create the spec sheet for us for bidding. They understand this is how this works, you know, it's a competitive process, so they get that. Any questions or comments on that piece?
Personnel.
We had a bus driver resignation, a bus driver contract, and then a couple of volunteers, so just one volunteer, right? One volunteer for high school girls, current coach already.
The
Resignation separate.
resignation or motion to approve the resignation for bus driver.
So moved.
Second. Favor say aye. Aye.
You both put the others together.
Contract for another bus driver and the volunteer basketball coach, girls basketball coach. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Favor say aye. Aye. Contracts are approved. I guess while we're here, to go back to Mr. Ward's point, do we need to look at some policy procedures or what? I guess I just need some more information, I guess.
Yeah, we can get you updated, and then if we want to put it, really, it's gonna have to be on the agenda for next month to act on it.
I put them on the agenda for next month.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
as an action item, and we'll get you what current policy states in the meantime.
Thanks.
I've got some district enrollment numbers on there. I know I presented you some graphs last time, but I tried to create my own this just so you can just to stay in the weeds with some of those. And really focus on the ones that affect our bottom line. Like, record open that document, I'll walk through that. So you've got 5 trend lines there for enrollment. We'll start with served enrollment. Thank you. These numbers they're not, they don't correspond to anything. So, well, what I did was, it was bothering me that the years were going the wrong way, in my opinion, so I changed it. That must have inverted some of my numbers, so I'll just speak to them. So the first enrollment measure we look at is resident in. That's how many students live in our district and attend our district. Okay, so this year we have 316 resident in. How does that compare to years past? And I will get you an updated version of this since those lines don't correspond to the right thing. Last year we had 315, so we're up one resident in attending our district. 2022, it was 334. Prior to that, 337, 324, and 309. So we're kind of right at what the average has been over the last 6 years. Within that, I'm also going to include our open enrollment out. Okay, so resident in and open enrollment out combined is what's called actual enrollment. So what our actual enrollment is how many kids attend a school that live in our district. Okay, and that's what the state funds us for. Now we have to pay the schools for those kids that leave, but we had 25 kids open enrolled out this year. Last year was 23. It's been 26, 21, 17, and 14. Again, right on par with where we have been. I'll tell you, the fact that our resident student count is up is a really good sign, because in small districts in Iowa right now, that is not the case. Resident student count is down. So if we're stable or up, that's a great sign. The next one is then obviously we are an anomaly, or I should say in the minority, in that we net a significant amount of money in our open enrollment in. Okay, the bulk of your schools are paying money, so their balance is usually a negative. We net almost $1 million annually in open enrolled in students. Right now we're at 128 this year. Last year we were at 142. That's been the largest over the last 6, just so you're aware, because prior to that it was 122, 113, 115, and 107. So steady. Really we're up with the exception of last year. And remember, I think I either put it in here or the weekly board update, we had 13 open enrolled in seniors that graduated soon. So obviously that's going to affect our number. One of the things I have noticed is we have a tendency to increase open enrollment into the middle school and high school almost at a higher rate than we do at the elementary. So I don't know what that attributes to. Maybe they want to play an activity or something like that. Then the final number is our served enrollment. That's how many kids are coming into our building. So this year we're at 444. Last year we were at 457. Prior to that it was 456, 451, 440, and 416. So yes, we're down 13 from last year, but an average over the last 6, we're pretty stable right at it. We're down 13 kids served, but again, remember we graduated 13 open enrolled students in, and that's where our difference is from last year to this year is in open enrolled students. We're not down resident students, which is great. Yep. I will get that fixed too, so you can actually see the right data with the right points. Questions on enrollment trends or anything with the funding of enrollment?
I can't remember what it is that if your number served down, you no longer qualify for like an extra bucket.
But budget guarantee is what you're talking about, 10%. Yeah.
I'm sure you're right.
101% budget
Yeah.
guarantee.
So are we gonna be impacted this because of our served number being down?
No, because
Our resident.
we applied for budget guarantee.
Yep.
Every year you apply for 101% budget guarantee,
Okay.
whether you need it or not. So if you don't need it, they just throw it away. If you do need it, it comes.
Okay.
So be okay.
And it comes in the form of authority.
Spending it.
Yep.
Yeah. Going back to my 1 year ago today, 101, and I'm like, oh. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, any other questions on that? No,
I think, because we do use open enrollment so much, I'm just gonna put another plug in for, we have resources to address our website to make it easier. That would be great. I know we don't have resources, but there's a
Well,
club that can work on it, or what does it cost to pay to have it upgraded? Would it be worth it?
and I think more importantly, even though, yes, I agree, one of the discussions we've had is we're back to a point now where we have to advertise again. We need to make sure that we're getting things in the paper about open enrollment deadlines so that people know. We've probably had almost a dozen students try to open enroll in after the date this year, and we can't. Obviously, we can't take it.
Which is October 1st, right?
March.
March.
Why do I have October?
I don't know, because September 1st would be
September
kindergarten.
1st is kind of.
September 1st. Okay.
So
In
So
those situations, do we have their name or do we take an application and say, hey, well,
Well,
we'd be happy to do it
we've let
Yeah.
them know.
for next year or?
Yeah,
yes.
Yep.
Typically, if you get a late open enrollment application, they're attempting the cause of pervasive bullying and harassment. So we certainly always let them know. But I would say more often than not, historically, they tend to, move through the year and then things,
Work out where they're at.
yes. But, I mean, ideally, we'd say, well, here's next year's application, right? And so,
but if you remember, we did actively advertise here.
Right, yeah.
And we haven't done it for 3 years maybe. So we'll start that up again and maybe we'll start it even earlier.
We kind of stopped
Before I
when they
did in
did, when they
January.
stopped having the deadline.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we should spend the money to put it in paper.
We have in the past. We put it
I'm like,
in,
I wouldn't spend that.
you wouldn't?
Where are you gonna put it?
What, person like our age is reading the paper? I mean, in theory, like, we're watching Facebook and Instagram. I'm only, I don't watch any of those, but like,
We'll use all avenues. But generally, we're advertising in other counties. Also, so like Story, Marshalltown, Newton.
and Facebook's great, but you have to understand if they're not following our page, they don't go to school here.
I don't know how to get stuff
Yeah.
out there. I just feel
Yeah.
like,
I think Julie needs to pop up on these kids' TikTok. That's
what I mean. we could have some kids, some student council members, because we have their little. TikTok.
Well, I think
I
we are,
like,
we
I
are
use-
working
I
on a
haven't
hype
looked at a
video.
paper since my grandma put
Right.
one in front of me,
Right.
5 years ago, like, they're just. We're parents of kids that are going to school are not looking at newspapers.
Yeah.
And all these families that I talk to that are calling us to open enroll here, they have no clue about the deadlines and such. They're like, oh, I can't just come to Baxter. No, sorry, you can't just come to Baxter. It's not.
You can't go anywhere at this
Right,
point.
right. So it's just lack of
Yeah.
information.
I think we'll just probably use all avenues. It's not that expensive, to put it in the news. I don't know, when we put it in the newspaper before, we had those other communities come in because they were not happy with us, because we were advertising.
Well, what do we spend as it, $500 or $600 to try
That's
to
it.
put it in all the
Not even that.
newspapers?
Yep.
That's 1/10 of a kid.
Yeah.
If you get one
You get
kid,
one
it's,
kid.
it's
We've covered it,
you 10 times your money that you spend, so.
but we'll use all avenues.
And you only got one
House
newspaper,
before,
just
too,
I
I
know.
What's that?
You're only one newspaper, just.
We do an open house before. Like an open enrollment.
We have done that before.
Years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Put that, do that. in February, even, or March 1st, right?
March 1st, yeah.
January or something. Yeah. Walk around the building, sell them right there.
I think it should be like, consider a student council project to try some sort of like culture reel or. I mean, kids today are the ones that can sell. less,
Absolutely.
For sure.
Millions and all of that, but for sure.
Maybe have something, I don't know what it'd be, put in the comments when we have ball games in the winter time, or whatever. I mean, you get people from other districts.
Well, and if we're doing a hype video, we could have that hype video on that TV. We could have McCade's video on there that we had McCade do. I gotta revisit that because I don't want it to be dated, can't remember what all was in it, but that was a good video.
Any other enrollment questions or comments? Okay, reminder, November 21st is the IASB Board Convention. For those interested in attending, let Julie know if you want to go. I'll just tie this other note in there. We're slated to have our board meeting on the 20th. Would you rather have that on the week before, on the 13th, so you don't have back-to-back nights tied up? Yes?
We thought you might. It makes for a couple long days.
Okay, yeah.
So are all of you planning on going to the board? Jim? Yeah. Okay. Normally, we would meet afterwards for a meal, and Clay and Cass, you would join us, and your spouses are all welcome as well. Do you want to give me some ideas of where you want to eat? Or a town thing? Do you want to come back here at Benola's, or do you want to meet, see, Clay, you're coming from that direction. Mr. Pearson's that direction, so maybe it's Baxter.
That worked out pretty well last year.
Yeah,
Although yeah, like I said, we're coming back down through,
Like on 230.
yeah, I was thinking we're all coming through there.
So far back this way.
You'd be right on
That's
80 or
true.
something if you want.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Pretty much, you're not gonna save your time. one way or the other.
Difference is the same.
so we've eaten at Prairie Meadows before, that steakhouse,
Oh, they do got that.
AJ's
That's all that's left.
or Big Steer.
McDonald's. They got a play place.
Raising Cane's.
That's what I was trying to think of.
Seriously,
Okay, so meeting on 13th,
Meeting on the 13th,
Sue. Next month, 13th.
13th, it's a week earlier.
If it makes it into the paper, just Julie knows that doesn't always happen.
it doesn't always happen, even though they
I
guarantee
will
it.
try to remember to put it down when I get home, thank you.
Um. Board policies 400 through 600 series. This is, we're gonna push this back a little bit. I think the goal for this needs to be implementation for the next school year. There's some deep cleaning probably that needs to be done. A lot of the reason this is, within the last 3 years, the primary has made a number of changes to board policy. So we have a lot of language to clean up and update and maybe some obsolete things to take out. So we will work through those. Ashley will continue to proofread those for us, and we appreciate it. It's very much appreciated. It's done.
A lot of time spent on that, so.
Yeah. So what I'm doing right now is notating a lot of those things, and then we'll discuss those. But it's not uncommon, for it to occur this way, but we're gonna need more time to get the language straightened out in those. I want to thank Zach and Clay. October is National Principals Month. You guys, we'll just put down here every day. I really appreciate the work they do for the district. So they are great assets to have at Baxter for sure.
We posted it on social media. I know you guys aren't on there, but we did.
Okay, thanks for that.
Julie got TikTok.
I'd love to see that.
Always hear good things.
The
Like even Clay just being here for 2 months, it's like, he's a great guy, seems like, so.
He's doing a great job.
Yep.
The next topic is the use of our logo. So I've had a couple of companies, I guess, if you want to say, reach out asking if they can use our logo. So I called Matt Carver today and asked him about the legality of it, because it's not copyrighted, okay? But even though it's not copyrighted, we do still have some authority over its use. So I guess what I'm looking for is a little direction on how you would like me to respond to companies that want to use our logo on apparel
There's already some doing it already.
that have just done it.
Without asking.
Is it apparel for the Bolts, or is it for another team that has a B in it?
No, it's for Baxter.
It's for
Hats,
Baxter.
kind of had something like that, with that have a leather patch. A credit union asked. I said yes to them right away, because they're gonna kick back money if people,
Yeah, that's one thing.
we don't have a ton of authority on it, but we do have some, and so I just want to make sure before I say yes to some of these things. The one thing I want to be careful of is that it's used appropriately. So the fact that if I've got someone asking permission, I'm assuming that probably the recourse or the course that I'll take with it is, yes, please just send me whatever you're putting it on, so that I can look at, so we can make sure it's, number one, not inappropriate, number two, hate to say this, but it's just true, not tied to anything politically affiliated.
I think it takes away from like the Booster Club or any sort of student group that's trying to sell a t-shirt, you know.
Do we get any money from Jostens? Because we have a whole apparel link
Yes,
on our,
well,
We get a kickback,
you do, okay.
well, through the apparel thing, and we paid all back for the yearbooks, but that's a different story.
that's another story.
So, okay, I just,
Each of these businesses though isn't even in this county. And so that's a little bit what I'm concerned of.
person that approached me was from Newton. I think reputable, right? Chamber of Commerce
Yeah.
person and wants to use it on some hats.
Good advertising.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
I said that was fine, and then I was gonna respond back with, I've got some open enrollment flyers. I don't want to think. Okay. The multi-purpose building out there, so the wrestling coaches approached, they'd like to construct a breezeway between the two. I met with them the other day. Not something major, but something that matches the steel siding that's there. We have an outside door. And then across from it in the bus building is a dedicated bathroom, my understanding, I mean, it's closed off from the inside for the people that utilize that building, but it's not covered. They'd like to cover that. The other thing they'd like to do is construct a little 12 by 12 office storage weigh-in area in the corner of the current building. That could be used, and the one thing I said is this is a multi-purpose building, so whatever we do needs to be able to be utilized for anything that we may need out there. We have golf that uses it. The other day when I went into the bathroom, there's golf storage stuff in there. So we are in need of some, at least some storage somewhere in that building. I talked to Price and they said they would provide all labor and it would be $1,200 materials to the district, and that's a firm number. Input on that or thoughts on that?
Well, seems pretty big for that. Building, but I was trying to think of.
That's what I'm thinking. The mats take up,
Well, it'll fit in there and it won't come out to the garage door. So there is the room for it.
I guess I'd feel better about it if it was some kind of those movable walls or whatever. I mean, we've had the, we might still have some somewhere. We've used those temporary walls before just to, I know what they're like. I mean, the way in and that, and I understand that, but I guess I hate putting the permanent walls in there. As far as covered thing between the two buildings, I fine with that if they're gonna build it, it's gonna.
Stand up.
What's that?
Stand up.
Stay, yeah,
Look
I mean,
decent.
look decent and, you know, match the thing, but I guess I'd like to look around, see what we've got first, but like those temporary petitions or something.
Is the bathroom the old bathroom from
Yeah,
the
the
old
concession.
concession
Yeah.
stand days? Okay.
I mean, right now, I guess, knowing what, just knowing what they wanna do in there, I know where you're coming from, but I don't know, if that's their cost, I don't know, does it get any cheaper, even with $1,200 is, even if it is somewhat permanent, the way they build it, I don't know that we get any cheaper going a different, are you just looking mainly so that it's not a permanent structure?
I just don't want it permanent, so it messes up something for, I mean, it's a multi-purpose building and we
Yeah.
kind of left it open and I guess. I know what they want to kind of have private
Yeah.
for way in and that, and I think we can accomplish that, but. To me, as soon as you put permanent walls up, then we start storing crap, and then we start storing more and more stuff in there, and that, it's just. Mr. Peterson's probably seen that, it's, and maybe every district's like that, but I mean, you go. Above in the bus garage and there's stuff that's in there 20 years ago, probably, we need to get a dumpster, so.
That's also a separate conversation, Jeff, but you are correct. Got a number of
So I
those.
mean, but to me, it's kind of a twofold. It keeps the building, so if we need to have it open in all the area that we don't have permanent walls in there, but if we have temporary partitions, it accommodates the privacy part.
Like say, not that they would ever have to move, but if they need to be moved,
Right,
they can be.
yeah,
That's what you're saying.
I guess that's what I'm,
Or even if we don't have those temporary walls, they could build those temporary walls with that money.
Well, I can have the conversation with them to look into a temporary option to see what the feasibility is of that.
Do you have to have a 12 by 12 office?
I don't know what, the size I think would probably be negotiable. I think part of it too is there's some storage shelves in there right now. It's fairly well organized, but I think part of it is to close that off a little bit too. And then I think their idea was to, you know, with the top, that if you finish the top, obviously, then you can store like the golf equipment, the mats they use for golf and those things even on the top. So I think it's kind of, I think it's for privacy on one hand and then organizational on the other, but it is a good point. If we're doing it for organizational purposes, we're not hoarding. It just becomes,
If you go permanent though, how do you access the top? You have to build stairs then?
or, you know, I don't know what they're talking about from a height standpoint, or
Right.
it might just be something that they're using once a year where you just, if we have a ladder or something, they can pull some mats down or something like that. I don't,
I'd rather clean out above the bus garage and use that for if we need some storage area or whatever. And stay with the temporary partitions.
I can tell them to explore the temporary partition option, that's fine, for sure, and see where we're at with that or what they can find.
I assume it's a privacy thing for the weigh-ins, that's why they want to do it.
It is, and I think with having girls and boys wrestling, obviously,
Mhm. Can't use the bathroom to weigh in after they build their.
I think they
Haven't been
were,
there since I was,
I think they were for some.
oh, were they? Okay.
I think that was what he was discussing, and it was having another area, so.
I thought we were using the wellness scale for
They do.
because they were calibrating that. Well, once it's calibrated, you can't move it, right?
No, they're moving it
Oh,
over
they
there
are.
during the wrestling season.
Okay.
I will communicate with them, let's explore the idea, we're fine with the breezeway, doing the bathroom in the building, but let's explore the idea of temporary walls for now. Good with that? Yeah. Okay,
And we should have a look around and make sure we don't have some stash somewhere, because I'm thinking we do.
Yeah, the bus barn?
They could be.
Let's say.
Let's take a shot.
Bus bar.
Oh, they-
That's probably the one thing that we threw away.
the other thing I've chatted with you guys about this a few times, the wellness center committee, we met with them, and it's for the most part really folded since the district has taken over that operation. It has its own dedicated tab on our website. And a couple of them, Josh and Megan will stay on, we'll meet with them annually just as community representatives for improvements and things like that.
I have a couple questions about that, just going back to, what position is now responsible for managing the inquiries about issues down there? Okay, do you expect, like, is that where it should fit long term? And
I don't know who I'm gonna do it.
and does it have a noticeable impact on your day, like? I have no problem with us taking it over, but I want us to be really intentional, same thing with the documentation, like, we've got to be clear.
No, it doesn't take a lot of time, out of my time. We've actually had a lot of people apply, but a lot of people not come in and pick up their cards and pay for them. So I've got a whole bunch of cards that are built that are not being used, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. You know. Reset them and put them back into,
General access.
yeah, or something. And then, so generally my thought, I mean, we have maybe 3 a week that I have, that are asking for access, and it takes me 2 minutes to build a card. I mean, the card access is so easy to build. I was a little bit shocked at once I got in there and knew how to build it. According to previous people who did it, it was just a nightmare. I don't have
Yeah.
any troubles. I
From a
mean,
user standpoint, that have actually picked their cards up, we're about 70, is that accurate?
Yeah.
We've created about 100 cards, we probably got at least 3 that picked them up.
And I'm thinking more so of, like, issues with the equipment.
oh, so, that's part of what Josh and Megan will do because they utilize it. So in theory, they're just gonna keep tabs on it. And I've created a help ticket that's actually on our website. that people can say it's this machine and this is what's wrong with it. And which will then come to me, and then I'll call our vendor and they'll come out and they'll take care of it.
Okay.
So I'm not taking care of it. Our insurance, our equipment breakdown insurance, will generally cover those. Or if they're, too old or too costly, then they'll cost them out for us so that we can get new ones. We're establishing a, sort of like a capital assets plan for them so that, what I found is that basically all those pieces of equipment, each one individually is around $5,000 to $6,000. That's about what we have in, if we have 100 cards at $50 a year, that's $5,000. So in theory, you could replace out a piece of equipment every year. Josh says that the equipment would generally last a little bit longer than that. So we'll put it on a rotation and just kind of see how things go, and it'll be a living document. But just sort of like what our capital assets plan looks like, how we put so much away. And so if we don't need to replace new equipment, we'll just stock that money for when something does happen. So in theory, if I'm adding a card, it takes me a couple of minutes to add the cards, and I'm putting them all on due, on the annual basis. So I will send out email invoices in January, and the cards are set up to automatically shut off at the end of January if they haven't been paid and I haven't rolled them over. So I've set it up to be automated as much as I can.
But
So
we won't do it January 25, it'll be January 26.
no, it'll be January 25.
Okay,
They
so
did a prorated amount for this year.
Yeah.
you did it for,
Yeah.
sorry, that's true, I know we talked about this.
Yeah.
And then the travel ticket, it's a Google Forms. The nice part about it is they'll create a spreadsheet for it, so it's easy to see.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you had to then call and get bids and worry about somebody coming and coordinate efforts and.
In theory, the committee has really already established a relationship with a equipment company or an exercise, and that'll come out and they're really pretty economical. And attentive to us and that, and so I feel like we've already done they've done the legwork for us, so, and we've automated it as much as we can, so.
You guys are good? Good.
Trust me, that'll be one of the first things that goes off my plate if I can find somebody.
Overload the already overloaded.
The last thing I have on there is just some tentative dates. We talked about the board meeting for November, Wednesday, February 19th. I got down for our annual board facility tour prior to that board meeting. Then March and April meeting both, looking at moving those, March because of spring break, April because of budget certification. And then the corresponding dates for our work sessions would be March 4th and 6th. So maybe just some things to put into your calendar. Questions or comments on those dates?
Did we want to move that SIAC meeting then?
We will now, yes.
Okay.
So we'll send something out tomorrow and just notify them it'll be the 13th.
Second Wednesday.
I've heard in the past, we've had issues with getting attendance at that. I feel like.
Statewide.
Oh, yeah, that's not uncommon, unfortunately.
Well, I'm more so like, I feel like we should make a really concerted effort that if those people that we've approved aren't available, maybe with the new date, throw out a few more names. It's really useful. I can think of
Yeah,
other.
they'll look
people
for
that we can-
responses back. One thing you want to be careful with, I think in the past, it's been like 40 invites. A lot of people see 40 people on there and be like, you got enough. I'm not gonna come.
PCC, and nobody knows who that
Sure.
is.
Sure.
Yeah. Remember.
And your-
Before.
And don't forget your invites have to be representative of your population.
Right.
Meaning they have to, there's certain groups of demographics that are supposed to be included.
Are those topics already, are they already formed for that meeting? Isn't there agenda already put together for that?
There's a skeleton of it, and so they'll work you through a presentation with a lot of the data on there and have an agenda for you, either prior to, maybe the night prior to, or that night.
I thought that'd be an interesting group to kind of pick their brains on advertising our school. You know, cause you got everybody, kids and everything I noticed on it, but.
Yeah.
They might have kids might have some really unique ideas how to actually like
Mhm.
get out in front of other students.
That's a good point.
Anybody?
The only other thing I had, it's just something to think on. I know we talked about it a couple meetings ago, would be after these sports are getting over with, potentially doing some kind of, I think we talked, I don't know what we exactly landed on, but one thought I had was, as a school, if we did a really simple Google form or something that's really simple and fast to fill out, we're sending it out to all the athletes after a season. You know, I'm talking like 4 or 5 questions, just something to just gauge their, how did the season go, below comment section. But then also, you know, if we have parents' emails, be able to send them one too, that's, you know, 4 or 5 questions directed to the parents. That way, we start to build up, I don't know, there's data, if you will, that if there's something for Mr. Vaughn to sit down with a coach and say, hey, this went really well, this, I mean, just you know,
Yeah.
it's just an idea. I don't know that we have to do it, but just something that,
Part of the evaluative process or a piece of it.
a piece of it, and that way, if anything, I would hope it helps our coaches say, okay, wow, 20 people said this, you know, maybe I do need to work, or maybe it's that everything's great and that's hopefully that's all it is, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I've already, you learn very quickly on the board, everybody turns to you for things, and it's funny, like, he started saying, hey, I don't like how this went down, it's like, or, you know, it's not that I don't care, but it's like, I can't run to you guys with every little issue. It's like you immediately say, well, take it to this person and take it to this.
Sure.
But I feel like this almost,
Process.
yeah, and it just, I don't know, it kind of just builds if you have a coach for 5 years, it builds a resume for him too, you know, so he can just see every year how he's improving upon himself, so, or herself.
That could be a Google form.
That's what I'm thinking, something very simple, but nobody has an excuse not to fill it out, or don't complain, or, and it's okay for good things.
But I think we decide is it anonymous or not, and it should be yes, no, or scale 1 to 5, so it's very data,
Right,
not
yeah.
just like a free-for-all
Mhm.
opportunity for people to
Break
just
session.
like write a letter that you can't do anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If we're gonna use it for data points, let's make it consistent, scale, trackable.
Yeah.
That conversation too long for that process. That's a good idea. And we can-
Anything else?
Just
Ashley,
ask.
as good as Ashley.
You saw me thinking, I'm like, what's from the list that I remember? The SRO, any updates?
Yeah, so we're meeting next week on that. So I'll have more for you. The only update is that we got the grant, but not the fully funded grant, as we talked about last. That's really all I have. It sounds like they're going through the hiring process. It's kind of, it's not necessarily strange how they work, but they hire their staff first and then they do it from that pool. kind of.
Internal
Yes,
application.
Yeah.
Within,
correct. And so, we've got a meeting set up for next Wednesday. I did talk with, the mayor and we're kind of on the same page as far as there's really no city involvement at this point with this position. So they did offer, if funding does become an issue, they would certainly be willing to chip in. And so I just explained to him that, part of our responsibility on this is to budget for this after we lose the grant money too. And the other part of it too is if we're gonna make this commitment, the idea can't be we're making this commitment as long as we get grant money for it. We have to find a way to continue on with it, as long as we deem it to be worthy to continue with. So I'll have more information for you at the next meeting or in one of my Sunday reports.
I was at the city council meeting this Monday and the mayor reported that he talked to the sheriff and they got their applications in and they were pretty happy with the number they've got and the quality of them compared to when they advertised last time. So they were hoping that they could get both the deputy hired for the city position, and also one for the SRO position. So they are feeling better about it than they did several months ago. They put applications out.
That's good, actually.
maybe old. I'll send it for the next
I mean,
edition.
it's only 7:30.
I have a whole list here, and I could go on, but I'm good.
I'm good.
Good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I love it when you two do.
Hi. We're adjourned at 7:29.